Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. This morning, I'd like to discuss this issue of the failure by some people to appreciate that they are as a nation, we are responsible for the mess we are in. I'm surprised that some people keep thinking they expect the Zanu PF regime to be accountable to the people. There is a contradiction there. This Zanu PF regime did rig the elections, but we've got also to accept that by participating in those flawed elections, we gave the regime legitimacy. We all knew that Zanu PF would rig the elections, and we also knew that by participating, we'll give the regime legitimacy. So now we are paying for it. And the surprising thing is some people still somehow naively expect the regime to be accountable. But there's a contradiction there. Let me just play this audio, which has been taking the rounds in the social group I am in.
Ngavasatambisirwa nguva nana Java vachinounganidzwa muground. Java ari kushandiswa naMnangagwa senzira yekuzama kuratidza pasi rese kuti Mnangagwa anodiwa chaizvo nevanhu, iye akariga maelection. Hapana munhu ari kuda Mnangagwa muZimbabwe kunze kwokuti ukaona ari kunounganira Mnangagwa nhasi na uyu yokupa vanhu mota, vanhu vanenge vachitsvaka mari nechikafu. Ndozvo zviri kuitika. Hatingaiti nyika inoraramwa zvakadaro. Hatingaiti nyika inoraramwa vanhu vachiitwa kunge imbwa kana kuti huku dzinokandirwa masese. Kwete, Zimbabwe ngaidzokere pamutemo. Tine dambudziko rakakurisisa muZimbabwe, vakomana. Tarisai mhuri yeZimbabwe iri kunze kwenyika, vari kurarama upenyu hwakaomarara nenyaya yeZanu PF, nenyaya yaMnangagwa. Dai muZimbabwe makaitwa maelection ari peaceful, vanhu vakavhota chaizvo nemwoyo yavo yese. Kana vaivhotera Mnangagwa nemwoyo yavo yese, nhasi kudiaspora kungadai kwava empty. Vanhu vangadai vakadzoka kuZimbabwe kare, vakati hata kudzokera kunyika kwedu because zvinhu zvanaka, nyika yedu yanaka. Vanhu vakavhotera Chamisa, ndikuudzei. Ndosaka muchiona diaspora yakatsika mabreak, yakati ntsi, kati hatendi kunouchirira bere. Vanhu ndoda kupa dzokorora. The entire Zimbabwe yakavhotera Chamisa. Uyu akapinda through coup, akapinda through force. Zviya zvokuti chero wahwina ndiri kupapinda, ndoda kuona kuti unondiitei. Hapana zvatinokuita zvechokwadi, because ndiwe uri in control yepfuti. Zvombo zvese ndowakazvibata. But zviri wrong, because utaruzhinji hapana. Saka vanhu havambofi vakakuuchirira maoko, havambofi vakakupembedza, havambofi vakada kushanda newe.
Well, as much as Mnangagwa, must be admitted, would love to have the public support, he nonetheless is settled for the second best thing: stay in power even without the public support. What many Zimbabweans are failing to understand here is that they should not have participated in last year's elections. I think there are 5 fundamental issues that people should go through. Did The nearly 2 million who voted for Chamisa in 2023, did they not know that with no reforms implemented since the last rigged elections in 2013 and 2018, the Zanu PF was going to rig the 2023 elections? People should ask themselves those questions. Did you not know that Zanu PF was going to rig these elections? The second question is, the nation was warned that participating in these flawed elections would give Zanu PF legitimacy. Why did the people ignore the warning? Chamisa claimed that Triple C would win big because he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. The people should ask themselves, were they not being naive, to say the least, to be so easily conned? More so now with the benefit of hindsight. They were conned. People should ask themselves, why were we so easily conned? And this is not the first time this has happened. In 2018, it was the same thing. Chamisa conned the people into believing that MDC Alliance would win those 2018 elections. Number 4, Chamisa and company were hell-bent on participating in the flawed elections for the same reasons that they participated in 2013 and 2018, and why they failed to implement even one token reform in the 5 years of the GNU of 2008 to 2013. And those reasons were greed and breathtaking incompetence. The people should ask themselves, will Chamisa and company deliver reforms and free and fair elections? When they participated last year, did they expect those elections to be free, fair, and credible? Do they expect future elections that Chamisa and company are planning to participate in to be free, fair, and credible? I don't think so. I don't think Chamisa and company will deliver free, fair reforms so that the elections are free, fair, and credible. Because they failed to do so when they had the golden opportunity to do so during the GNU. And it is naive to think they will do so now. The fifth and last question is, MDC Triple C have failed to implement even one token reform in 24 years. It is worrying, is it not? That the penny has not dropped in the heads of our people. That Chamisa and company are not to the task. They are not up to the task of implementing these reforms and making sure that elections are free, fair, and credible. After 24 years, surely it didn't have to take you 24 years. But nonetheless, here we are, 24 years, and still some people do not realize that Chamisa and company have failed to implement even one token reform. The people have got to realize, to wake up to the reality that Zanu PF is actually able to rig elections because MDC have failed to implement the reforms. We can't have it both ways. We cannot keep on pretending that we want free, fair, and credible elections, and yet we are not prepared to elect to support opposition leaders who are committed to implementing those reforms. We cannot even accept that Chamisa and company failed to implement reforms in 24 years. And so this blind allegiance to Chamisa and company does not make any sense at all. The main problem we have in Zimbabwe is ourselves. Both Zanu PF and MDC have taken advantage of the fact that we, the people, are incredibly ignorant, naive, and gullible. Like it or not, Chamisa and company quickly realize that they do not need to implement any reforms as long as Zanu PF is willing to share some of the spoils of power with them. They learned that during the GNU, and Zanu PF, on their part, also learned that as long as we allow these guys to win a few seats, they will participate in these flawed elections to give the process credibility. And that is the causal relationship that is in Zimbabwe politics. We can deny it all we want, but the truth of the matter is that is the truth. I've often quoted what Tendai Biti said in 2015. He was basically saying the same thing. And I think at the time when he said it, he was hoping that many people would sit down and pay attention. And when he realized that people did not even appreciate what he was saying, he decided he was going to participate in these elections with his colleagues who were hell bent on participating as long as they get their fair share of the spoils of power. David Coulthard said the same thing. He went one step further and explained why the MDC leaders continued participating in these flawed elections. As he states there in the quotation showing at the bottom of the screen there, they participated in the 2013 elections because MDCT could not trust MDCN not to participate in those flawed elections, even though it was clear to all sides that this election process were so flawed, so illegal, that the only logical step was to withdraw. But they could not withdraw because they could not trust each other to withdraw. And they knew that whichever side participates will get these few gravitron seats that Zanu PF was giving spade. And so from there on, the nation was stuck with an opposition that is participating in flawed elections out of greed. And the problem has been that the people themselves have not been switched on enough to realize what is going on here. That MDC leaders were running with a paw for hair whilst hunting with the Zanu PF hounds. If this was not clear before the GNU, it certainly was clear during the GNU and ever since. The fact that MDC leaders have not implemented even one token reform in 24 years should have alarm bells ringing in people's heads, like church bells. These guys, are you going to implement reforms? Are you going to guarantee us free and fair elections? But alas, no alarm bells have been ringing. The gentleman whose audio I quoted there is absolutely right. People participated last year expecting, because they believed Chamisa's blatant lie that MDC or Triple C was going to win rigged elections because they plugged all the vote-rigging loopholes. He was only trying to justify why he and his friends were participating in flawed elections, knowing fully well that they are flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, they're giving Zanu PF legitimacy. He was conning people into participating. And now that people have been conned and they participated and gave Zanu PF legitimacy, the nation has got to accept the consequences of that. It was foolish. And now we've got to live through that foolishness. We've got to pay the price for our foolishness. And the price is we are stuck with a regime that is corrupt, incompetent, and is not accountable to the people. And our fault is we gave it legitimacy by participating, because we were fooled into participating. We were warned not to participate, but we ignored the warning. There is a serious danger that the people of Zimbabwe will be conned into participating in the 2028 elections without even one token reform implemented again. Because, yes, you guessed it, the opposition will tell them, no, this time we are going to win. We have come up with winning in rigged election strategies. And alas, many people will believe the lie again. I think the greatest tragedy for Zimbabwe is that here we are in the 21st century, 2,500 years after the Greeks introduced or gave humanity the answer to how a nation can govern itself. Democracy. And we have been experimenting with democracy. And 44 years after our independence, we still cannot hold free, fair, and credible elections. We don't even know what constitutes free, fair, and credible elections in this day and age. Well, there's no excuse for it, let's be honest. We just are not making the effort. And we'll pay for it. That I can rest assure you. There is no shortcut to good governance. Nobody's going to force Zanu PF to implement these reforms, particularly now that Zanu PF and our opposition friends have struck a partnership. The opposition pretends that it can win rigged elections. And so the pressure for Zanu PF to implement reforms is no longer there. And the people are foolish enough to believe the opposition will win rigged elections. They've come up with strategies of winning rigged elections. And so the pressure on the opposition to have reforms before the elections is no longer there. And Zanu PF benefits from it because as long as people participate in the millions in the flawed elections, even after SADC and the AU election observer turned around and said this process was flawed, if the Zimbabwean people themselves are happy in participating in a flawed election process, that is so flawed that you don't even have a verified voters roll, outsiders will be tempted to say, if this is what the people of Zimbabwe want, it's nothing to do with us. In the case of Zimbabwe, one can understand why SADC would take that attitude. SADC, although some people still don't want to admit it, we're the ones who are responsible for getting Zanu PF to sign the 2008 Global Political Agreement that gave rise to the GNU. The GNU, the primary purpose of the GNU was to implement the democratic reforms to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. That is the truth. Why millions of Zimbabweans have failed even now, with the benefit of hindsight, to realize that beggars belief. But that is the truth. SADC, throughout the GNU, nagged the opposition to implement the reforms, and they were ignored. So for anybody now to keep on saying, oh, why doesn't SADC deny Zanu PF legitimacy? SADC played their part. The opposition ignored them. We, the people, we should have taken sides with SADC. We should have been behind SADC and put pressure on Morgan Tsvangirai and company and said to them, why are you not implementing reforms? We should be the ones who are behind and pressurizing the opposition, saying, why are you participating in flawed elections? Particularly when you know that they are flawed. And that participating will give Zanu PF legitimacy. But we have been very silent on that. We participate after we are conned. And then we expect the vote rigging Zanu PF to be accountable to the people. It's a contradiction. Zanu PF is not accountable to the people. Zanu PF knew that as long as they're able to rig the elections, they do not need to be accountable to the people. And they will never be accountable to the people. At the end of the day, whether we like what they are doing or not, they will win the elections. We are going into the 2028 elections, and the regime knows that its partner, Chamisa and company, will participate, will get people to participate in those flawed elections with not even one token reform implemented. And as long as people participate in their numbers, I think SADC will find it very difficult to deny Zanu PF legitimacy. We have got a tough decision to make, but it is not as tough as some people try to make it. We love making the problem, compounding the problem, making it bigger than it need be. Because by talking of insistently of trying to make Zanu PF accountable to the people post the elections, it's just naive. Why did we participate in a process that we knew that by participating we are giving Zanu PF legitimacy? We knew it was a vote-rigging regime. It's never been accountable to anybody. We give it legitimacy, and then we expect it to be accountable. Forget it. It doesn't happen that way. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good day.